Hello and welcome to another episode of My Backstage Pass. This is your host, Lee Zimmerman, and I'm here with my producer and pal, co-host, Billy Hubbard. And today we're very excited to have the great Willie Nile as our guest. Hi, Willie. How are you?
Hey, Lee. I'm happy to be here. Hey, Billy. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
It's our pleasure, buddy. You were telling us before we went on the air that you've been doing some traveling and you're doing some solo shows where I guess you do songs and stories, right? I mean,
it's been a really great spring, really busy. I was in Europe. I did some shows in Italy, and then I toured in Spain and with a Spanish band. It was great fun, and no place like playing in Spain. I mean, those audiences. And then I came back to the States, and I did a solo storyteller tour around the country, like literally a circle,
Wow.
From New York to Dallas to LA to Santa Barbara to LA to Ohio, Chicago to Indiana and Illinois, up to Grand Rapids, Michigan, to Ann Arbor, Michigan, back to Chicago, flew to Pittsburgh, and then played Pittsburgh and then Penn State, then drove back to New York. It was, it was like a blur, and it was really interesting and really fun. I really enjoyed it very much. Solo, just me on a guitar and a keyboard, piano.
Is that
Cool.
kind of a different format for you? Or are you usually touring with a band? Is this something new?
Yeah, it is different. I mean, I do it's rare when I do a solo show, but I usually have my band because the band is so strong, and we have great fun. I've got a great band. I've been very, very lucky in that way. All the bands I've had have been so strong, and this band is strong as ever. And we have to call. I always have the venue call the fire department before we play, so there's trucks on hand when we blow the roof off. They can catch it and put it back after we're done.
Wow.
So usually I'm playing with a full band. So this was really a nice change. It took me, as I said earlier, it took me back to the early days when I'd play on Bleecker Street. Back in the late '70s when I got signed to Arista Records.
Right.
So it was really good fun. When you're playing solo, you can wing it and play anything. You can just make left turns and right turns and tell stories. And I love playing with the band. I got a short amount of night and outside of Philly, but like the solo thing was pretty fun. I'm going to do more of that.
Wow. So how long were you out on the road for?
Well, I think I did 20 shows in 28 days, something like that.
Wow, that's a lot. And that includes the shows in Europe as well, or?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was something like that. Might have been more but it was really, I really enjoyed it. And for an old geezer, it was pretty. I held up well. It was really fun.
Well,
my dad is 106 and a half years old. My father, and he's doing great. The guy goes to church every day.
Wow.
And he lives home. One of my brothers has been living with him for 6 years. He's takes no medication. He's fine, and he's funny, great storyteller. Any knack, if I have a knack for storytelling, comes from Dad. He is a great storyteller and really funny to this day. And hopefully I have some of those genes. Sometimes during the shows, I'll call him on the phone from the stage. I'll tell people, hey, my dad's 106 or whatever, and 105, whatever. And I'll put my phone to the microphone on speaker so they can hear him.
Oh.
And it's really sweet. I'll call him and I'll say, hey, Dad, how you doing? I'm good. What you doing? I go, I'm on stage, I'll be on stage in front of 200 or 300 people. I'll go, I'm on stage in front of 5,000 people. And they'll all start laughing, and he'll say, be good to my son, One time he said, I did the same thing, called, hey, Dad, how you doing? I'm on stage, and the audience wants to say hello, and they all cheered. And he said, I deny everything.
Willie, there's a story you told. I heard you tell a story to somebody on another podcast or somewhere about your dad. I just remembered that about the snow blizzard. Some amazing story about you, but guys about froze to death.
Yeah, it was dangerous. It was a year ago, December. So December of 22, Christmas time, there was a big blizzard in Buffalo, and there were hurricane winds, and I don't know what grade hurricane it was, but it was like 37 degrees inside the house, for 3 days.
Wow.
We had no electricity.
Wow.
Somebody was driving. There was a driving ban, and some idiot was driving and ran into a power line, a power pole, and knocked out power. So we had no electricity and no heat for 3 days. It was, my dad was 105 at the time.
Yeah.
I was 74, and my brother was 70. And it was, you lay down in bed, it was freezing. I remember getting in bed going, what the hell?
Gosh.
And I was worried about him, and he never complained. We had wine on hand, so we're sitting by, there was a gas fire that worked in the fireplace, but it didn't give any heat. The stones above the fireplace were warm, but it didn't, unless you had wood.
Yeah.
On the second day, my brother went in the garage and cut up a bunch of wood, whatever wood was there. So for 2 or 3 hours, we had some heat, but it was really cold. We were my dad sat in front of the fireplace, and I wrapped it with dressed full winter clothes, sleeping bags around us, having a glass of wine, and I filmed it on Christmas Eve. I said, "Hey, everybody, it's Willie. I'm here. There's a blizzard. There's like 5 feet of snow outside, and the roads were impassable. It was very dangerous." And I turned the camera on Dad. I go, "Hey, Dad, you got a message for the people?" And he goes, he holds up his glass of wine. He goes, "We're having a blast. This is
that's
it's 2
terrific.
nights into this storm, and we got rescued by the fire department after 3 days and taken to a warming place. But we survived it. But it was pretty scary. And the funny thing is, like 2 days after I filmed that, that TV show Inside Edition is doing a story about the Buffalo Blizzard. And at one point they go, "Meanwhile, this guy," and it cut to me, introduced to my dad. So I'm gonna formally change my name to this guy.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
It'd be hard for a young man. That's amazing.
So you, Will, you yourself have quite a history, quite a trajectory, going back to your first album in 1980 for Arista Records.
Yep.
And as I recall, you had like a veritable who's who of folks recording with you at the time. That was an auspicious start to your career, was it not?
I was playing on Bleecker Street, opening up I was the opening act on Bleecker Street, 2 shows a night, 6 nights a week.
Wow.
And Robert Palmer of the New York Times, called the club, and he wanted to come and review the headliner. And Don Hill, bless his heart, who was managing it at the time and opened up a legendary club some years later, Don told him, "Hey, the headliner goes on at 9, but you want to come at 8 to see the opener. He's really good." So he came early, and I got this rave review in the New York Times, which got me. If you and I sat around trying to write a rave, we couldn't have done better than he did.
Wow.
And I got signed to the next night. There were half a dozen major labels. Clive Davis was there, and I signed to Arista Records. Made a record, and it got a ton of press. I got the next big thing nonsense, and I got to tour across the U.S. with the Who. It was like when you dream about, I graduated from the University of Buffalo, and I wanted to go to New York and make records. And you imagine what can happen, and you have hopes and stuff. I never cared. To this day, I don't care about being famous. You can have it. Fame is not something that I seek. Money, I'd love to be stinking rich, but fame, you can have it. Didn't do a lot for Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston,
Yeah.
Anyway,
you
never, in my wildest dreams, I never imagined that I'd be at the out of the gate, getting the kind of press I got worldwide, and then opening up across the United States, open up for the Who, and I love the Who,
Oh yeah.
And we're friends to this day, and that happened. So many things have happened on my journey, and literally 2 Mays ago, I opened up for the Who at Woodstock. It was like full circle,
Really?
from 1980.
Wow.
From 1980 to like a year and a half ago or whatever.
Wow.
I got to open up for the Who again, and they've always been really good to me. And at Woodstock, it was crazy.
Yeah.
You never know. You believe in your dreams. You never know where they're going to take you.
Right.
I'm a believer, and I still believe. Still having more fun now than ever, actually.
Well, I was saying before that you've worked with some amazing people, and I think I may have gotten the album wrong, but at least on one of your albums, I guess Places I've Known or I've Never Been. I have never
places
been.
I've never been.
You had Richard Thompson, Roger McGuinn, Loudon Rainwhite, members of the Roach. I mean, so you've rubbed shoulders with some amazing musicians, and I think that elevates you to that strata, Mr. Nile.
I've been very, very fortunate. Robbie McIntosh and Wicks, McCartney's keyboard player, also played on that record. T-Bone Woke. It was a great time. I got to make a record I'm very proud of. Places I've never been. And you can't plan on all these things. The next year I got to tour with Ringo, opening up shows for the All-Star
oh my
Band.
gosh.
And got this the last night. Here's a story for you. So the last night of the tour, we opened up 6 shows. Somebody got sick, and that was opening up. I got a call, this one July day saying, "Hey, can you play Jones Beach opening up for Ringo on and night after tomorrow?" So I called my band, and we did, and Ringo dug our what we did. So we got another bunch of shows around the Northeast, and it was really fun. It was a fascinating experience to see the reaction when Ringo walks into a room. I've been with famous people before, but a Beatle, and he handled it really, really, really well. He put up the peace sign, and the last night of the tour, I did my set with my band. It was in Saratoga, New York, at one of those, 20,000 sheds, outdoor sheds. And I'm on the side of the stage, and Ringo finishes the last song in his set, which was Photograph. But all I've got is a photograph.
Yeah.
Great song. So, and I was like, he comes off the stage. This is before the encore. And it was our last night. And I was not near him. I was about, 30 yards away. And he sees me across the way, and he comes walking right over to me. This is before his encores. He gives me a big hug and says, "Congratulations. Thanks, Willie, so much. You did a great job." And he hugs me. And I'm covered with sweat, and I thought Beatles sweat. I'm covered with
Beatles sweat, yeah, special sweat.
And he said, "You want to join us for? I get by with little help from my friends." And I said, "I'd love to." So I got to go out on stage, and I got to sing that song with Ringo, which was a beautiful thing. He was, but what a classy guy. He didn't have to do that. I'm not a famous cat. And he took the trouble the show wasn't even over, and he came over to thank me formally. It was really sweet.
Wow.
So, you can't imagine some of this stuff. I've been very lucky in a lot of ways,
Well, you've made some terrific albums throughout your career, and your allegiance to New York. You're like King of New York. Somebody might have called you King of New York at one point. But
I think Lou Reed was the King of New York.
You've taken over the throne, so to speak. But your allegiance to New York and what that particular type of music means has remained steadfast through the years, because let's face it, there is a very distinct New York sound, and Talking Heads, Patti Smith, yourself, there's an aura about that, and you've always remained true to that. And you live in New York now, so obviously it's.
I'm still in New York. I'm looking out the window now. I can see Bleecker Street out my window, and there is a New York thing, and I love. Every city has its own magic, whether a big town or a small town. And I've been in New York City some 52 years now, on and off. And it's taught me a lot. It's still teaching me things. There's an edge. It's such a cosmopolitan city. If you and I stood on the corner of Bleecker and McDougal, in 15 minutes, we'd hear people walking by. We'd hear like a half a dozen languages. There's rich, there's poor, there's everything in between. And I've got a degree in philosophy from the University of Buffalo.
Yeah,
but
I read
the streets of New York, have taught me so much. They're still teaching me. So it inspires me, and I've written a lot about it. I still do. And when I'll drop before I stop being inspired. That's my guess, because I'm at the age I am now. I'm having more fun. I'm writing as much as ever. I put 9 albums out in 12 years during one stretch between
Yeah. Yeah.
2009 and 21, and I've got there's a guy making a documentary about me, so I held off the last year and a half making a record, but I'm working on one now. I put a live album out
Yes, you have a live
in
album.
April.
Live at Daryl's
Live.
House Club. Yeah.
Yeah, the band did great. It was a great night. I'm really proud of it. Captures the band in all its power, and it's a real good, interesting collection of songs, the set list. And I'm working on a new studio album now. I'm piecing it together. I've got so many songs to pick from, and I'm pretty excited about it. And so I'm still writing, and New York is still influencing me. I don't even have to be here for New York to influence. There's so much New York in my brain. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the new album, it's a wonderful album. And in a sense, it's kind of a culmination of your career up until this point, kind of a summation of who you are, what you're all about, what your music is about. I mean, it really captures it very well,
Thanks, Lee. But when I heard it, I thought this is a nice, really well-rounded, powerful, exciting set of music played by great players, and I thought, this feels right, and I'm really proud of it. I don't make records or put anything out unless I don't put filler on any of my records. If a song's not, if I don't feel it's really strong and stands up on its own 2 feet and has something to say, it doesn't go on a record. I won't go in. I go in. My songs are written when I go in. I don't write in the studio.
Right.
And I'm hard on it. The songs have got to measure up to a certain level, and because I love it. I love music. I have since I was a kid, and I love it as much now. It's kind of funny. I feel like I came here just a few years ago, and it's been a long time since I came to New York, and I'm either too dumb to know better or just blessed, one or the other.
Yeah, no, but I think the overriding sensibility in all of your albums, Willie, is that they're so emphatic, they're so anthemic, they have such power in the music and in the very sort of allegiance to rock and roll. And nowadays you see a lot of these so-called artists, and they've got 101 dancers behind them, and it's all a gimmick. It's all stupidity, in my opinion. But you're the real deal, and you make music that epitomizes what this thing called rock and roll is all about. This drawing power that's so powerful, and you really stay true to that. It's great to have a champion like you doing that, Willie, really.
Well, that's nice. That's really nice of you to say. Thank you, Lee. My feeling is that, life is real. People die, things happen in this world, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it's real, and people feel pain, people feel joy. And for me, my outlet is writing songs about stuff, whether it's guitar driven or piano driven, whether it's rock and roll, whether it's a ballad or a love song, love, loss, all the above, and so I reflect that in my songs. I would do it whether I was a plumber living in Alaska, I would still write songs, and it means something to me, people can tell when somebody's on stage if they're like going through the motions, or if they think they're hot shit. I'm not there to show off. I'm up there just to play the songs. It's about the songs for me, not about me, and life is real. And I love music, from the early days. I loved classical music as a kid. I love ragtime. I love the, rock and roll, like the early stuff. I had older brothers.
Yeah.
I saw Elvis Presley when he was on Ed Sullivan. I saw that. I saw the whole thing unfold, and, the British invasion hit me, radio back then, from Motown to, you name it, just great stuff, great artists all across the table, the Stones, Beatles, Dylan, Who, the Kinks, everything. And there's so many great artists out there, Leonard Cohen, Tom Waits.
Newman, of course.
We could name the Ramones, the whole thing. I saw the whole CBGB scene happen.
Wow.
I played there before. Television was my favorite band that played in New York all these years. They were unbelievable. To see them live at CBGB's, to see at 1 a.m, the place would levitate. I remember I'd be there was a phone booth when you entered the club, the stage was at the far back, and near the front door, there was a phone booth. I remember like 1:30 in the morning, I'd go on the phone and I'd call my buddies in Buffalo. Hey, listen to this. I'd hold the phone out the door and say, "You got to come to New York. It's like Hamburg. It's like the Beatles. It's like that. This is." And it was amazing. So that was very, very inspiring. I'd see Patti Smith, television, Talking Heads, Ramones, all that stuff. It was really a fascinating time. And I'm a believer. I think music can mean something. It can make a difference, whether it's on a large scale or a small scale. When I do after a show, I'll sign CDs, come out and thank people for coming out. I'm very grateful when people come out to shows. And you'd be surprised how many times people would say to me, I lost, a parent, or I lost a mate, whatever, some months ago. And this is the first show I've been to. A friend said, "Oh, you got to go see Willie play. You'll feel better." And people, it happened once. There was two people in the same line with a similar story. Music is I believe in the inspiration where music can pick us up.
Yes.
Life is hard for everybody. If the three of us were all multimillionaires, we'd still have trouble. It's not easy for anybody. And music can pick us up and help us get through this journey we're all on. And I feel it to my bones. So as long as I'm feeling that, I'm just going to share that and just keep following down that road.
I think that's the part of your magic in your sauce, as they say, is your love. It comes through because
exactly. Well, we're going to take a quick break, so don't go away. We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor. Hold on. Okay, now we're back. Our guest today is Willie Nile, and Willie, a terrific, I was going to say singer-songwriter, but a rock and roll singer-songwriter. I think that some of the songs on the live album, which of course are part of your repertoire, part of your classic catalog, I think they say it all. New York at Night. That's so expressive. Or, Wake Up America, House of 1,000 Guitars, This Is Our Time. The titles of the songs themselves epitomize the energy and the enthusiasm and the belief that you have in spreading the message of music. There's no doubt about that. I think it's safe to say.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lee. I feel it. It's plain as day. You can see it. Life is hard for everybody.
Yeah.
And whether it's blues music or whatever music you like, whatever the genre is, it can pick you up, and I write about that. And I'll stare into the face of whatever it is. If it's, death, if it's famine, if it's, some man's inhumanity to man, or true love, or, partying on a Saturday night, whatever the subject matter, I'm always 100% all in on it, and because it means something to me. It really does. And that's why I'm still fired up. It still means something to me.
So how do you spend your downtime? You've just gotten back from the solo tour, and now you're back in your safe space, New York, the Village. What do you do when you're not on stage?
Well, there's not. I laugh because downtime. I'm always going.
Okay, all right.
I'm busy. I'm connecting dots on the computer. I don't go to social media. It's all I can do to keep up with emails.
Yes,
someone does it for me, but they check with me. And so I've got a hand in it, but I physically can't. I don't go there. That's just too much. So I don't have a lot of downtime. If I have downtime, I'll be writing. I remember I went my phone the other day. I'll put on my voice memos. If I get a song idea, if I'm out and about, I'll just put my voice memo on and sing it or hum it or speak it in there. And the other day I went, because I'm working on a new studio album, and I saw like a dozen ideas I had, songs, some closer to finish than others I forgot about. And, I'm just always going. If I'm not on stage, I could be writing, I could be, hanging out. I just came back from Buffalo. I spent a week up there. I was born there.
Yeah.
Dad's still there. I've got some kids there and grandchildren, so I go to Buffalo when I can. Whenever there's a window, I'll go to Buffalo just to see Dad. He's still here, God bless him, 106 years old. I go to Europe a lot. I got married.
That's really, that's a wonderful way to spend life. I mean, to keep going and to stay productive. I mean, but do you walk around the neighborhood and folks say, "Hey, Willie," and you walk into Cheers, a place like Cheers. "Hey, what's going on?" And
yeah, I'm always, New York is a walking city. You walk a lot here,
Yeah.
And I'll be doing errands, or I'll just wander. I'll go to wander through the village in different places, different areas. It's still fascinating to me after all these years. People are fascinating, and the city's the history. I love history.
Yeah.
And I go to Europe as often as I can. I got married 3 years ago, and my wife and I have a place in Italy where she's been living 30 years.
Nice.
And we go back and forth. And I'm always on the run. It's not a lot of downtime. If there is, I'm either, just wandering the streets or writing, or, on my rooftop looking at the stars. I'm kind of a dreamer. But I'm always
the roof.
I'm always
up on the roof. That brings to mind.
On the roof.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you are so productive and prolific. You must have a ton of songs that we've never heard. So is it time for the Willie Nile anthology, perhaps, with unreleased tracks,
it's
CD set or something like that, maybe?
There's so many. I have so many songs and so much material. I started working on an anthology. I started working on an anthology in the fall.
Okay.
And debating about what shape it would take, but it's been a while since I put a studio album out, so I'm focused on that now. But I think after I put the studio album out, I'm not sure whether it'll be the fall or early, into next year. I see, depends how long it takes. I'm usually pretty quick when I make the records.
Okay.
But so I was working on an anthology. I mean, I could do a big one with all kinds of CDs because there's so much material.
Yeah.
Or a stripped down one of 40 songs or something. I don't know. There could be two different, a box. I don't know. But I am working on one.
Okay, good. Good. I thought that was a good idea. And of course, I want to do the liner notes, Willie. So we'll talk later. We'll talk.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Bless your heart.
Yeah. So you're working on a new studio album here. And perhaps at the end of the year, perhaps early next year. That's sort of the timeline at this point.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm psyched. I've got the album. Okay. I've got the album cover already. And
really?
I've got,
okay.
About 4 or 5 songs already recorded. I just got so many songs to pick from to fill that picture out. And so with some of the trail that I've got ahead of me, and I'm looking to do it, and whether if I can do it by later in the year, that I will. Otherwise, early in the year, one or the other, next year.
Well, while we're talking about future projects, it sounds like you have a book in you. I mean, going back to the seminal days of Greenwich Village and the New York scene back then, and really, this wonderful path that you've been on, it sounds like you got a book in you. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. And I'm not somebody who kisses and tells, but there's.
Come on, Willie. We want to hear it all. Come on.
Good, the bad, and the ugly. Anyway, I started making some notes, some years back, and all I really need is a line or two, and I know what that story is. But this guy's making a documentary about me the last few years.
Okay.
And my energy's been going into that for now, but maybe at some point after that, maybe I'll think about doing a book, just because there's stories to tell, and and which could be illuminating, and we'll see. We'll see. It's one step at a time. But yeah, I made a lot of. I've got pages and pages of notes, and
Great.
at some point, if I have time, I would do that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, not everybody has beetle sweat on them. You know, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, not everybody has beetle sweat. I have Billy sweat. But we won't go into that. We're very good friends.
We're too close here. Let's get over. Hey.
So tell us a little bit about the documentary, though. I mean, how long has this been in process? And I imagine a lot of live footage and intimate interviews and that sort of thing.
It's this guy from Vienna was writing, a lot of emails wanting to make a documentary. I didn't know who he was, and I wasn't paying much attention. And a buddy of mine said, you should meet with this guy. He was going to fly over here to meet me.
Right.
And I met him at a cafe, out of courtesy of him coming over. And I met him. I was going to just say, no, I'm not, I mean, Scorsese wanted to make a film, it's going to be something. And I didn't know this guy. And I met him and we spoke for a couple hours, and I was really impressed with his passion and his knowledge, and everything he picked up on as we talked was very smart. I go, okay, that's pretty smart. We met again. And so it's really been about 6 years on and off.
Oh, okay.
We filmed me on tour in Italy, in London at the BBC, and on tour, and in New York City, to say the least, and Buffalo in the Northeast. And it's just, a story about a guy who never gave up, and I said, well, why me? What's so big about me? I'm not a big rock star. Why
yes,
do you want to
you are, Willie Nile. Come on.
Well, no, but but I'm not a famous cat. And he said right away, he said, because you never gave up, you're doing your best work now. And with New York City as the backdrop, it'll be a story of inspiration. I went, all right, that sounds cool. So, we've been doing it, and it's coming along. We've got a lot of stuff. There's a lot of really interesting stuff we've got. It's not just it's interesting musically, New York City wise. It's a lot of fascinating characters in it, from homeless people in New York to Hall of Famers and whatnot. So I'm psyched. We're moving along really well with it. So we'll see when it gets done.
It sounds
fingers crossed it can get done.
It sounds like a real slice of life there. Very realistic. Don't they call that cinema verite or something like that? I don't know. Cinema.
No, it's pretty real,
Yeah.
I think my dad's the star of it. The interview with my dad, he's priceless. The stories he tells.
That's wonderful.
Talking about he bought me a guitar one Christmas. And he said he came home a couple months later, and home from work, and he says to my mom, "Where's my boy name is Robert?" He goes, "Where's Bob?" And she said, "Oh, he's out in the thruway with his new guitar, hitchhiking to New York. He wants to play in the clubs."
Wow! Wow!
He's got all these. He's got these great stories. Yeah, they should make a movie about him.
I'd heard, Willie, that you. Maybe I don't know where I read it or heard it once, that you play. Let's see, are you really left-handed, but you play a right-hand guitar? Is that what? Is that true?
Yeah, it's pretty wacky. Chances are, when I was I do things with both left and right hand. Like, I write with my right hand, but that could be because in first grade, when they said take the pen or kindergarten, put the pencil in your right hand. I probably did. Because if I play pool, I play with I'm a lefty. If I shoot a bow and arrow or whatever, it's lefty. I do some things. I play basketball, I shoot with my right. So I do both. So when I did 1 year of college, and I basically goofed off in high school. So when it came time to get into college, I was smart enough that I didn't have to study or anything. So I kind of breezed through. But my grades weren't, the 87 average. It wasn't great. So to get into the colleges, I was having trouble. So I went to the guidance counselor one day and I said, "I'm having trouble getting into college." And he goes, "Well, there's this college in Ohio in the middle of nowhere that just built a new dorm, and they're looking for people who want a dorm." And so it was a dorm full of troublemakers who couldn't get anywhere else.
Wow.
And I went there, and one of my roommates had a guitar, and it was we were north of Canton, Ohio, in the middle of nowhere, and there's nothing to do. So I said, "Well, teach me to play the guitar." And I would have been a lefty, guitar player, but he had a right-handed guitar, so I just learned that. I haven't been the same since.
Wow.
That's probably good.
My wires got crossed.
Yeah, it makes both sides of your head work. Maybe that's why you're such a good writer.
I've not been the same since.
Well, it's like I can't say that I'm a drummer, but I fool around with a set of drums, and I have for many years. And my pal who taught me drums was left-handed. I'm right-handed, but I play drums left-handed, open. This kit is set up as a right-handed drum kit, so I play open. I think Dave Clark of the Dave Clark 5 did the same thing. And so I relate to what you're saying here,
It's doable. I did it, but because I'm a little bit ambidextrous, I guess.
Okay.
I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable playing right-handed, but there's no question when I picked up the guitar first time.
Right.
I was a lefty.
So what were your parents more concerned about as far as your future career? Becoming a philosophy major, because what do you do with that, or becoming a rock and roll performer?
Well, I'm one of eight kids,
Oh,
and
okay. All right. Okay.
They did. So there was a lot of us, and they did not micromanage us. They were believers, and you follow your instincts. And I went to college. My elder brothers did. My sister did. There was never any question about going to college. But when I was writing poetry in high school, and I played piano, classical piano, from 8 years old, and took drums for a couple of years. But I stopped playing the piano when I was around 16, when I was just partying and chasing girls and playing sports. And when I graduated, I wanted to go to New York. When I went to college, I started writing songs. I combined the guitar with the poetry I was writing, and they didn't mind. They encouraged me.
Okay.
My dad said to me, you don't want to be 70 years old wishing you'd done this.
Of course.
Give it a shot. So they were encouraging. They let me give it a shot, and it was a real long struggle up. To get once I got going, this next big thing nonsense. I made a lot of noise, and then 2 years later walked away from the business when it became more about business. There were sharks and wolves and stuff, and I didn't want them to spoil my buzz for music.
Right.
I remember saying to my wife, we had 2 kids, she was pregnant, and I said, let's get out of here. I didn't want no part of this, because I looked like maybe this guy's going to make a lot of money, and there was all these people. I had problems with a former manager and a lawyer, and I thought, to hell with this. I wanted to get in this for fun and to make music, and it wasn't fun. I said, let's get out of here. So I left town. I walked away.
Right.
It took me 10 years. It took me 10 years to make another record.
Right.
Because after a few years, I kept writing songs, and finally, some years later, I came back to New York, and I signed with Columbia. And long story short, so my parents were very encouraging to all of us kids, trying to follow what we wanted to do.
Well, my point was, when you majored in philosophy, that was probably a greater concern, because you don't see many wanted ads. Philosopher wanted, start tomorrow, $19.95 an hour. I don't know. That would have concerned me. That would have concerned me.
The thing is, when I went to school, I had no plan whatsoever. Right. I went to the University of Buffalo. It was a great, great university, from 67 to 71, something like that. And it was a great time. There was a lot of revolution and turmoil. It was fascinating. And music, I remember I saw, the music, I saw Frank Zappa, I saw, Janis Joplin, I saw,
wow.
They came to school, Purple Harem, you name it. There was so many, all the great poets would come read through town, Allen Ginsberg, Gregory Corso.
Wow.
And it was an inspiring time and a place. And I went in my senior, so I just took courses that I liked. In my senior year, I went for the first time to see my guidance counselor. I never had done that before. I go, how am I doing? no plan. He goes, well, you're a philosophy major. I went, whoa, cool. Thinking that
philosophy major.
That sounds highfalutin. What can you do? I said, what can you do with a philosophy?
What can you do with that?
What can you do with a philosophy degree? And he goes, well, you can go to graduate school. I went, I'm out. I'm going to New York City trying to make records. And so, but I learned a lot. It taught me a lot. I was I think it was one course short of an English major. I just took courses I liked, and I took an astronomy course. We would just go up every Tuesday to the what do you call it?
The observatory.
Every Tuesday night we would get stoned and go to the observatory and look at the stars and laugh, and it was a great time. But I had no
Some
plan.
of us are still doing that now without the observatory. But okay, it's all right. But
anyway,
it's as you were referencing earlier. There was some lapse between albums from 81 to 91. It was 10 years without an album until Places I Have Never Been came out. And then it was another 8 years after that, and then 7 years after that. But since the latter part of the first decade of the millennium, you've had albums every couple of years. Remarkable.
Every year, almost every year.
And with the live albums too. That's
Well, the live albums too. Yeah, it's more than that. Yeah. I forgot about the live albums. Those are your studio albums,
right?
The 9 of 12. But I put an album out in 80, 81, and then walked away and signed to Columbia in 88. It took a couple of years to get it done. Long story there, and then I put a record out. I put an EP out in 92, Hard Times in America.
Yes.
Small little label. I just wanted to get it out because it was an election year and I wanted to get that song out. Hard Times in America. I just started playing it again, and it's more true today than it ever was, and it's a killer live song. And then I was 92, and then I was just playing in clubs in New York. I got a day job, and I made an album, came out in 2000 or 99, Beautiful Wreck of the World.
Oh, yeah.
I had a great, thank you. I had a great band, Andy York, who's been with Mellencamp for years, Rich Pagano, great world-class drummer, Brad Albetta. And I just thought, well, let's get a band together just to play and see what these songs sound like, because I always have a batch of songs. And they sounded so good. I said, well, let's go in and demo them up just to and it came out so good. I go, well, this is an album. So and a friend of mine convinced me, you don't need to wait for the major labels, because that's what I was always doing, waiting for the major labels.
Right.
I was under that illusion that you needed a major label to come along and to get it out there and to promote it and all that stuff. And a friend said, no, you don't need to do that anymore. You can do it independently. So I put it out on Riverhouse Records, my own label, and I've been doing that ever since. Other than 2006, I put out Streets of New York. A good buddy put it on his small label, and the independent world is really, it's a great thing. More people can get their music made and get it out there, however extensive that is. Yeah. And I'm grateful for it. I've been doing this for years now, and having more fun than ever. I'm still learning. I'm still learning in the studio.
Yeah, I was going to say, as an independent artist, you've won a number of kudos. The AIM Independent Music Award in 2013 for One Guitar, Best Social Action Song, a nominee that same year for The Innocent Ones, which is for Best Album, Hard Rock Album, a 2000 nominee for the AIM Independent Music Awards. For Best Album, Hard Rock Album for American Ride, and then again in 2018. So your efforts have been well recognized here in the circle of independent music.
I've been very fortunate with that. I don't make them for awards. I make them because I love them. That's the first. I love music and the songs, but then I'm also trying to make a living. That's the whole point. I don't care about
right, sure, of course. Of course.
winning awards, but I'm grateful, very grateful for the acknowledgments that I've gotten. I've gotten more than my share,
Oh, they're all well deserved, Willie. I mean, and you're a member of the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame. I don't think we've ever spoken to anyone who's a member of the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, have we?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Well,
yeah, but bless their heart, bless their misguided hearts.
Your very first album, Stereo Review Magazine proclaimed it the record of the year. So you started out and have kept going ever since here with the accolades. Very impressive.
I think it underlines the truth that you can fool some of the people some of the time, and people have no taste. But kidding aside, I've been very, very fortunate and very grateful for the accolades I've gotten, and yeah, it's meaningful. It keeps me going. That I must be doing something right. And now I'm at a point where I have a pretty good idea of when it's right. And if it means something. I tell the band, like when we're playing live. If we're having fun, maybe they'll have fun. If it means something to us, it might mean something to somebody else.
Right.
Right. So it's been a great ride, and it's still going full speed ahead.
Yeah, obviously. It's wonderful to have the confidence and the credibility all in one here to be able to do what you do. I mean, you don't slack off on either side there. I mean, it's wonderful to see, and for some of us of a particular generation, it's very heartening and encouraging and life affirming. So the music's wonderful, but there's so much more that you represent, Willie, and thank you so much for all you've given us.
Yes, thank you.
It's great. It's thanks for saying that. It's my pleasure. I feel it. That rings true to me. I can, the feedback I get at live shows and the records I put out. I feel that. And it, like I say, if it means something to me, if I hear it and I go, man, that sounds real. That. Because life is real, man. People die.
Yeah, no, I
life
know.
Is real. People fall in love. People get their hearts broken.
I know.
And music can heal that. It can inspire us, And I'm still a believer in that music can help change the world and make it better.
Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing how it's going to outlive us all. The work you're doing, that stuff. That's something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. But I'll do my best.
You're doing your best. You always have, Willie Nile, and we thank you for it.
We appreciate your time, man. Talking to us, it's been interesting. I guess we're going to have to let you get out of here.
Yeah, don't go away, Willie.
Let's do our little outro and sign off. It's been great.
I appreciate you taking the time. I'll hang out, but thank you guys for taking the time. It's much appreciated.
Big thanks to Willie Nile and our host, Lee Zimmerman. Check out Lee's new book about Jim Gaines, 30 Years Behind the Glass. It's now available on Amazon. Also, please like, share, and subscribe to My Backstage Pass on your favorite platform. And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye-bye.
Happy trails.